I'd like to thank you so much for your comments and feedbacks on my last two videos. As you have been watching me so far, I believe that you're serious in quickly overcoming your language barrier to be able to hear, understand, and speak, or even present in English. If you're like some friends of mine, you may have your own unique talents. You may have your dreams and wishes. You may want to join the global community to work anywhere you want, to become a businessman or businesswoman, going around the world, working with partners coming from many other countries. But you and I have the same disadvantage of living in a non-English speaking country. Some years ago, when I was struggling with my English, I used to ask myself, why is it English? Why isn't it Vietnamese? I'm not sure if you ever had the same thought, but that damn language is holding you back, right? Sorry I'm using bad word here, but it is holding you back from showing your real capability to the world. Now I want to tell you that it is not very hard to learn to speak a new language if you know to do it the right way. That's why I'm here to share with you some of my best knowledge and experience. The knowledge that I usually teach in my private coaching class only. But the reason why I created this video series and share with you for free is because I don't organize such program very often, and I have to do many other consulting works. And I understand that not everybody can afford to spend more than $100 to attend my class, my 3 or 4 session program. So I created this video hoping that it will help you achieve your goal. In the last video, we have talked about the core vocabulary, and we have learned that it determines whether or not you will quickly achieve your learning target. And today, I'm going to share with you a technique that will help you quickly access to the core vocabulary. It will help you retain those words in a longer period of time, and more importantly, it will help you learn in a more comfortable way. In the first part of the video, I'm going to explain how and why you remember or forget a certain word. What is the mechanism here? And I'm going to tell you the big mistake in learning vocabulary that many language learners make. Then in the next part of the video, I'm going to share with you, I'm going to give you a step-by-step instruction for you to practice my technique. Don't worry, even though it took me almost 4 years to figure it out, but it won't take you more than 4 minutes to understand it. Once I tell you how, it's going to be super easy to follow. So are you ready? Let's start. Have you ever asked yourself why sometimes you could retain a piece of information for quite long the first time you heard or saw it, but when you learn language, when you learn English, sometimes you couldn't remember a certain word, even though it was not the first time you learned it. Even though it was not the first time you learned it, and the common case here could be you see some word which is familiar, but you can't remember its meaning. It happens all the time, right? You can't remember its meaning. Let me tell you why. Your brain will easily remember things that it can associate. In his book, Second Nature, Human Brain Science and Human Knowledge, the Nobel Prize-winning author Gerald Alderman reveals a lot of interesting findings about human brain. He found that our brain cells function by a mechanism that he called recognition and association. Because of association mechanism, you can easily remember a piece of information that had something to do with your existing data in your brain. In other words, the information that can relate to your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, your desires. It will be very hard for you to remember a piece of information that has nothing to do with you. For example, if I tell you my name, you will remember it for quite long because my name relates to your desire of learning English, so that your brain can link that name to other information already exist in your mind. Like you have watching me talking in my videos, or you want to speak English fluently and maybe I can help you, and things like that. But if I tell you a name without letting you know who he or she is, you forget it in a few days. Secondly, you can only retain a word if you are exposed to it several times. There's a very important point here, and many people don't know it. It is you need to be exposed to that word in different contexts. It will be very difficult for you to remember a word if you learn it several times but in the same context. That's the reason why sometimes you learn a word in your class and then you wrote it down in a notebook. Then you may look at it once or twice, but you still forget it. And even worse, some people try to learn vocabulary from a list. This is a very big mistake, because I'm sure that you will never be able to retain words by memorizing from a list, no matter what kind of list it is, with or without quotes attached to it. So remember, you can retain a word much more easily if you are exposed to it several times and in different contexts. Now let's move to the next part. Let me show you my technique, the free reading technique. The reason why I call it free reading, because I want to distinguish it with the comprehension reading section that you usually find in a textbook. To give you a better view, let's take a look at this one. This is a typical comprehension reading section. I got this one from the site BBC Vietnamese. As you can see, this is a short paragraph. Sometimes it could be longer depending on the intention of the composer. There are words in bold and there are notes at the lower section to explain the meaning of those words. In many cases, there could be several questions for you to answer. If you were to study this reading section in your English class, the teacher would write these words onto the board, explain the meaning, instruct you how to pronounce them, require you to answer some questions, and so on. This method is very common from the beginner to advanced levels. When using this approach, the teacher assumes that you already know all other words. The words in bold are focused upon because they are supposed to be more complicated and more difficult for the learners. Okay, now let me ask you a question. Are you sure that all those difficult and complicated words listed in the example are worth your time and effort? Recall what we talked about in the last video, the Pareto principle and the core vocabulary. You want to make sure that the words you spend time on should be the most common words. Coming back to the example, you can now see that the comprehension reading method tends to drive you to focus on the most difficult words. And my next question is, are the difficult words the most common one? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Most of the times, the shorter and simpler words are more common than the long and complicated ones. If you want to check how common a certain word is, you can use the website word count. Here's the web address. This is a website that provides rankings based on how common a certain word is. Even though I can't vouch for its reliability, but at least it can give us a rough idea. All you need to do is to enter the word you want to check in the Find Word box and then click the arrow button next to it. Let's give it a try with the word humanitarian from the reading section. Here we go. We got the ranking of 11,000 plus. This result shows you that the word is far less common than the 3,000 most common words. Now let's come back to the example and see how we can approach it in a more efficient way. What we're going to do is that we're going to remove all bolts from the words in the passage. Because this paragraph is quite short, I need a long one to make my point clearer. So I simply did a search on Google and found this one. This is another article talking about the same story. Now what I'm going to do is I copy and paste it into the Word document. Now if you screen these two articles, you'll find some words that appear 2, 3 or even 4 times. Let me do it for you, and let me highlight the words so that you can see them more easily. They are reporter, attempt, newspaper, film, access, deal, family. The phrase "say on the videotape" shows up twice. Again, if you want to check whether these words are really common, check it out on the site wordcount.org. Here, if you type the word "attempt" in the search box, you will get the frequency ranking of 882. This shows that the word "attempt" does belong to the group of the 3,000 most common words. The logic here is simple. The words that appear more frequently should be more common. Obviously, doing this way is really hard, and there's a much better way, the free reading technique. Here's what you're going to do. Firstly, you need to prepare some tool for you to quickly check word meaning. A favorite tool of mine is Click and See. I use it to see the meaning of a word in just one click. Or you can use any kind of dictionary software you want. But you want to make sure that you use something to check the meaning very quickly. So don't use a regular book version of a dictionary because it will slow down your reading speed. Now that you're ready, let's start to read from the beginning. Every time you face a new word or a word whose meaning you don't remember, use your dictionary software to check its meaning quickly and then continue to read. Here are the big don'ts when you're reading. Don't take note of any word, including new words, difficult words, long words, complicated words. Just don't take any note. Don't force yourself to remember any word. And finally, don't underline or bold any word. Again, don't take any note. Just read. Check the meaning of any word you want to and do nothing else. Then you want to read as fast as possible. Read as fast as possible. After reading a few sentences, maybe just one or two sentences, you might see a certain word that you have just checked the meaning of a minute before. However, you might not remember its meaning because you didn't take note. Well, no problem. Just relax. Go ahead and check its meaning again using your software. Then continue to read. You will likely see that word again, and you may still not remember its meaning. Just use your dictionary software again and continue to read. Well, after seeing a certain word 3-4 times and checking its meaning over and over again, I'm sure you remember it the next time you see it. And then, guess what happens? You'll have learned a word from the core vocabulary. Here's the key. Those words that you have seen over and over again are the most common words. The methodology here is very simple. The most common words must show up repeatedly. After reading a long piece, you will forget many words and retain some words. Those that you forget are uncommon words. Those that you retain are common. Now, you might be wondering why such a simple technique could be so powerful. Let me explain. I call it the art of simplicity. Firstly, the free reading technique naturally drives your focus to the most common words and phrases. And at the same time, it helps you save time by not making you struggle with the uncommon ones. Secondly, following this technique, you don't need to force yourself to memorize vocabulary. You naturally retain vocabulary because you see a certain word over and over again. And more importantly, you see that word in various contexts and in different sentence structures. This helps you understand the real meaning of that word and gives you a sense of it. Sometimes you find that a certain word usually occurs prior to or after another word. This helps you remember how to use it in combination with another word. Thirdly, this technique allows you to freely choose any content you want to use as your reading materials. Remember that you retain much more easily the information that you care about, that you're interested in. Whether you are interested in science or art entrepreneurship, or stock exchange, you'll find tons of reading material on the internet. This will keep you excited every time you sit down to study. You will no longer feel tired and bored. Every time you find a phrase or structure repeated over and over again, you achieve something, and this motivates you to learn more. You don't have to force yourself to think or memorize. You just learn it in a painless way. Most of my students tell me that they could learn for hours using my technique without getting tired. This is very important for you to learn a new language quickly. And your next question might be, what type of material should I use to practice? To this question, I strongly recommend using forums. Why? Firstly, because you can easily search a forum that you are interested in. For example, if you want to open your own business, you can search forums discussing about entrepreneurs. Secondly, forum is easier for you to start comparing with newspapers or books. Thirdly, in forums, people use daily conversation style, and it is in favor of your listening and speaking skills. And the last but not least, in forums, you're free to post your comments or replies. And by doing so, you really get involved in the communication process. Now that I've shared with you the method that you can use to access to the core vocabulary, the very important factor that will help you be able to hear, understand, and speak in English. This method is simple, but it's powerful. I used it myself, and later on, my students have used it to overcome the English obstacles. Now, there are some notes for you when practicing this method. Firstly, you've got to do exactly what I've told you. Don't do it yourself. Don't do it your own way. Sometimes when you practice this method, you may not understand a certain word or sentence even after checking its meaning. It is fine. It is fine, because a dictionary can't help you understand everything. I know that in that case, what you should do is just go ahead and ignore that sentence. I know this feeling is a little bit uncomfortable because normally we will be tempted to understand the whole content, but you need to adapt to this feeling, because our purpose here is not to understand the whole content, but to collect the most common words. And thirdly, as you start reading the first page, your reading speed will be very slow, and you may have to check your dictionary too frequently. In my experience, it may take you hours to read and understand the very first lines if your vocabulary is few. And then you would feel a little bit tired and frustrated. It is okay. What you should do then is to take a break and relax before coming back. Then if you continue to read the next page, you will find that you have to check your dictionary much less frequently. And your reading speed will increase dramatically after the very first few pages. But, you know, unfortunately, not many learners know this. Most of them quit too early without knowing that success is waiting for them right around the corner. And finally, you've learned that it took me almost 4 years to figure out this method, and it now takes you 4 minutes to get it. Now I want to give you 2 more numbers. If you spend 40 minutes every day with this method, continuously in 4 months, let me repeat, 40 minutes every day, continuously in 4 months, you will have enough words to be able to speak as I'm doing right now. I guarantee that. Okay, I hope you find it useful. Thank you so much for watching my video. I will send you another video soon. Don't forget to share this one with your friends and your beloveds. But until then, take action. Do something today to improve your English. Because if you want to shine tomorrow, you've got to sparkle today.